My name is Lydia Heckman, the Media and PR Coordinator for Better Business Bureau. I'm proud to introduce this session today. We've got some information from Campus2Careers in Tano that we are proud to offer to our accredited businesses in the local business community in general, as the Better Business Bureau is really working hard to advance marketplace trust. And this session is going to be training you on what it's going to look like to build an effective internship program. And we do believe that that is a great way to be increasing the trust that your business is able to earn with your customers. So we hope you enjoy.
So the topics we're going to cover with you today is we're going to introduce a new framework. What we want the small business and nonprofit community in Austin, soon in the state, and soon nationally to think of when they hear the word intern, and a annual internship program where you can count on an intern all year. Rob's going to spend some time talking about that paradigm shift. We want to talk about the various incentives that you have at your disposal as a nonprofit, as a small business, even if you can't pay the intern, to incent them to come work for you. A lot of times it's just the right wording or asking the right questions up front. We want to talk about how to recruit for the spring and for the summer. It's not too late to find an intern today through our site or through other means, even though the semester has started and is almost halfway through. And once again, it's just finding the right incentives for the student body.
We're going to start with this paradigm shift. How many of you are aware of how things work in Washington, D.C., roughly speaking? Yeah? Washington, as you may not know, runs on interns. And it's really an extraordinary thing. It's a little terrifying if we reflect upon it. But what you have in Washington, D.C. is an infrastructure that has grown up over the years and really kind of come together just in the last 10 years. An infrastructure that facilitates students moving into positions at nonprofits and for-profits and with the government, such that the organizations themselves have adapted to this environment, and they have slots within their organizations that are constantly filled by students coming into the organization. So if you're a nonprofit, for example, in Washington, D.C., you benefit from this beneficent environment. You have additional capacity by virtue of existing in this environment. And it's a win-win because you have students who are acquiring important skills and experience and organizations that have additional capacity. So when we were thinking about what we wanted to do here, and I became familiar with what Campus2Careers offered, it seemed to me that this is really the potential. The potential is to create a Washington, D.C.-like environment, to bring the Washington, D.C. paradigm to someplace other than Washington, D.C. Now, the key thing is to have an infrastructure that facilitates the students moving into positions. And that, I think, is what Campus2Careers offers. Now, a big partner in all of this is the higher education world. And that's a tricky part of this right now. But I'm convinced, as I mentioned earlier, that higher ed is moving in the direction of having internships be a critical part of an undergraduate experience. It's not so much that way now. There's a lot of talk, but it's still relatively low percentage of students do internships as undergraduates, so that's coming up. But what again you can see in the future in Washington, D.C. If you're a student at George Washington or Georgetown or American University or some of the other colleges in Washington, D.C., you do 4 or 5 internships in the course of your undergraduate career. So if you get a sense of what is possible, if you reflect on how many students there are in the Austin area, and if each one of those students is doing 4 or 5 internships over the course of their 4 or 5 undergraduate years, you have a very different environment for nonprofits and for-profits. It's really a game changer. Now, San Jose, California, got a sense of this and actually proposed, I don't think they actually implemented it, a program that would have area undergraduates and recent graduates move into the corporate world in that area. And they talked about this in a way that reflected an understanding of that Washington, D.C. paradigm. They talked about creating a farm team of talent, drawing all of this talent into universities and getting students the experiences and familiarity with certain companies that they could step right in and really help these companies right away. So at least one place in the country has gotten a sense of what this could mean for the area economy, and I think that that's very forward-thinking and really what we're trying to facilitate today. So absolutely critical is the infrastructure which streamlines the sourcing and selection of interns such that you're able to facilitate this Washington, D.C. paradigm. And this is really a very ambitious undertaking, but I think there are many reasons why it's already succeeding and will succeed fully as time goes on. Washington, D.C., just to put a point on this, the infrastructure there took years to develop, and it's very organic. You've got universities, you've got the Washington Center, you've got my little consortium of schools. All of this stuff grew up, and at some point it hit the point where you had students just streaming into the city and the infrastructure facilitating their placement. What we want to do is, in really one fell swoop, create that infrastructure and start to move our nonprofits and for-profits towards creating within their organization additional capacity. Slots where interns come in and have an experience, prepare the way for the next intern to pick up that position, and it continues on with enormous additional capacity for the organization.
And just to add to that point, if you think about it, the number one barrier to an internship program is the fact that you do all this upfront work, whether it be building the role or recruiting the interns, and then it ends up being a 3 or 4 month experience, right? That's the number one reason why every small business or nonprofit doesn't go about finding an intern. What we're going to propose to you today is a process where you can count on an intern all year, and then year after year, right? So you're not just building, as Rob said, a single position, you're building a slot. And the old intern can replace themselves with a new intern and transition that work to the new intern so that they're documenting everything that they're doing and handing it off and replacing themselves, hiring their replacement.
And our next slide just gives you a definition so that we can all be on the same page as we start this. An internship is an academic experience. That's an important thing to keep in mind. It's not a job. It is an academic experience, and as a result, it's governed by university curricular processes because it's part of the curriculum. So there are learning goals that are part of internships, and they have to be really thought through, and I think that's something that will come through in our presentation today. Now, this academic experience is more and more an important part of an undergraduate career because this kind of experience is more and more necessary to have students get where they need to get by the time they graduate. If you have an internship program, you're contributing in an extremely important way to an undergraduate education, if not a graduate education. And one way to think about this is to reflect that a freshman in college is 4 years from being in the 8th grade. They're not really ready for prime time. Over the course of the next 4 years, and sometimes 5, and sometimes 6, they need to get to the point where they're really ready to go. And there's no way of really doing this unless you've got particularly extraordinary students. There's no way to really do this without the practical experience piece. So an internship increasingly is a very, very important part of an undergraduate experience. What we're looking at is a part-time experience, something that works for students while they're in college, although it could range up to more towards a full-time experience, 10 to 20 hours a week. Academic credit is available typically, and this is where things get a little bit challenging because the way universities are set up, they're not very standardized in terms of awarding credit, and you often have to drill down to academic departments or individual professors to actually work through the credit piece of this, but it can be done, and we stand here to help you. But it is institution specific, sometimes department specific, and sometimes professor specific as to what will actually be involved in getting that credit. Credit is very, very important for students, and that's something that is really important to keep in mind. Typically, students won't do internships unless they're receiving credit or they're going to be paid for the experience. They really want one or the other. Now in Washington, D.C., again pointing towards that, that's not the case. Now, frequently they're getting credit, but oftentimes they're doing these things for the experiences themselves, which are very valuable.
One thing to add, there's a lot of questions that we get about the legalities associated with an unpaid internship. If you are a small business, by state definition under 50 employees here, then that labor law policy doesn't apply to you. So that's the first thing. Second is that nonprofits, that labor law policy doesn't apply to either. So legally, you are allowed as a small business or a nonprofit to offer an unpaid internship. We will talk to you about how to create incentives that could include financial compensation for the intern, just to make the experience more relevant, as well as get potentially a better intern. But once again, the legalities of it for most of the people in this room won't apply.
Okay, just before we get started into the meat of the presentation, we do want to just touch again on the benefits for you as employers, building capacity and bench strength, access to talent, which is a huge part of the potential here, which is what was motivating the folks in San Jose, access to younger people, young people with their knowledge of technology and trends and so on and so forth, the opportunity through the internships to evaluate people. One way of talking about an internship to potential interns is that it's an extended interview. You know, that the whole time you're there, you're trying to be invited back. And that also works from your perspective as well. Again, we're also interested in not just having you have one intern and having it end with that experience, but creating a slot within your organization, and that's what we'll focus on today.
So when we talk to employers, we see that there are two predominant reasons why a small business or actually any company or nonprofit for that matter has an internship program. And it usually falls into one of the two that Rob mentioned. It's either they want to recruit top talent, and this is kind of a probationary period, and that's usually larger or mid-sized companies. And then for small businesses and nonprofits, it's largely a lower cost labor supply and access to expertise that they have never had access to before. And that's sort of reflected in the top intern positions we have on our site. My guess is all of you here today probably have at least one of these needs in your organization, and in many cases, an existing student is better positioned to do these tasks or the tasks associated with these roles than you are or than anybody else in your organization is. And one of the first things we tell small business owners, startups, sole proprietors, nonprofits is put a value on your time and figure out if it's worth bringing somebody on to do some of these things. Social media is the easiest one. I'm in the generation that grew up with social media, yet I haven't touched our social media accounts in 6 months since we set them up. Our intern posts every job and every tweet and every status update on our accounts. And when our old intern left, he trained our new intern, and I just met the spring intern 2 weeks ago. So I didn't even interview the intern that came on to do our social media. The first intern set up our accounts, designed our social media strategy, started doing the posting using a third-party tool, which is free, by the way, that he found, then posted the internship position for the spring intern on our site, interviewed them, hired them without anything more than just me looking at their resume, trained them, and made the transition of sending over all of the account information. Without even knowing it, the old intern graduated, the new intern started, and we had very little to do with that. That's the slot that we're talking about. We know that it's not a really good use of my time to be tweeting. I know there's some people tweeting right now, Elijah. But the point is that we thought it would be best to put that role in the hands of someone who has the time, has the interest, and grew up even more so than I did on, on this technology. Online marketing, graphic design work. One of my favorite things that I tell small businesses and nonprofits is you could only dream of having the software and the resources that students have access to for free every day. Whether that's CAD software for graphic design work, whether that's LexisNexis for research, whether that's access to renowned professors that can give them guidance and advice. We help clients of ours on Campus2Careers get access to a professor named Mark Alpert. How many of you have read The Tipping Point? Anyone read The Tipping Point? So Mark Alpert is the maven in The Tipping Point. He's a UT professor. Every semester he tries to find between 5 and 10 local small businesses to do free market research for as part of the student's capstone project. This work would be worth $10,000 easily if it was provided by a local business. And instead, the students do all the market research and market validation. He meets with the business owners, understands your needs, and all of that project work we source through our site, as well as helping you guys get interns. There is an incredible array of resources at your disposal, not only through student and intern talent, but just through the programs, professors, and resources available on campus. And that's one of the things we can help with. Students, 70% of students work part-time, whether that be an intern or at McDonald's to pay bills. And so I don't want you to think that you can't find someone who's willing to work even during a busy schedule and a busy semester, because sometimes they'll be even willing to do kind of sales or customer support and just pick up the phone and answer questions. We've got a number of some of our top interns on our site work full-time at Apple or Dell or other sales support where they get paid, and then will come and work for you for free for real internship experience versus the paid work that they're getting to do, some of the grunt work where they're paid to do. Okay, benefits for students. We talked a little bit about this. I wanted to hit these again. Once again, this kind of leads you to packaging the experience in a way that gives them the most incentives to come every day and work for you. First is workplace experience. Students don't know what it's like to work in the workplace, and one of my favorite examples is we had a bunch of interns working at a nonprofit. They were getting class credit, so they just assumed it was a true extension of their schoolwork, and over one of the breaks, stopped showing up because it was break time, right? They said, oh, well, if this is an extension of my classroom, if school's off, then I must not have to show up to work either. And so, it's incredibly valuable for you to tell them what expectations are when they show up for their first day of a real job, of an internship, and to treat them like a real employee. Internships have proven to increase the starting salary of a student's starting salary, if it's relevant, 20%. All right, so in most industries, that's more money than you could pay an intern. Even one of the large employers can pay an intern for their work. So imagine a 20% increase because the work you're providing, the work you're giving them for free, maybe, is directly relevant to what they're going to get paid to do when they graduate. So that relates to resume builders, right? Actually giving them projects that they can do start to finish so that when they're in an interview, they don't talk about the grade they got, the class project they did, the fact that they were a student leader, right? All of which is important. It shows character, but it doesn't show competencies or skills. But saying, like the intern behind our video camera right now, that she was able to do a live stream video in front of the Better Business Bureau and with Tano and Campus2Careers. That resume builder is far more relevant than I took a videography class and I learned how to use the video camera. Obviously, class internship and or credit to graduate. And let me kind of talk to this a little bit because Rob alluded to it. Right now, there's no standard protocol for every school and every student to get class credit for their internship program. There's one criteria that applies across every program and every university, and that is it has to be meaningful, significant work. All right? Some schools are a little more proactive. Concordia, for example, any job on our site, Campus2Careers, automatically gets class credit at Concordia. Why? The president in Concordia recently said every student needs to have an internship to graduate. It's a huge statement. It's one that future presidents will be making, we know, as Rob alluded to. And so in order to substantiate that, now every job that comes to our site, and we do the validation with you guys that it's a legitimate internship, will automatically qualify. UT has an online course that liberal arts majors can apply to, get internship credit, and they are effectively submitting a weekly diary of what they're doing. But in most cases, what you're going to have to do is sit with the student, understand if they want or even need class credit, and then they go back to their professors or to their career center, and they go through the process of applying. Most schools, it's a simple form that they fill out with you providing a job description, and they submit it as long as it's in that window of time to get class credit. For the summer months, that process can happen today through end of May. So for those of you that are looking for an internship that will be credit-bearing, you're going to want to focus on the summer and build a program that, once again, meets the qualifications for that student. For those of you looking for someone to start tomorrow, you're probably going to have to provide some other incentives, like some financial ones, obviously resume builder, and then just a really fun place to work. Every time you can say to an intern or to a student, you will own this process or this project start to finish, you can market it on your resume as such. This is a great place to work. It ties into social entrepreneurship. It ties into a good cause. Those are incentives enough in many cases. We did a 13 campus survey. The number one place Gen Y, which is the generation we're talking about, wants to work is a nonprofit. Let me repeat that. It's not Dell. It's not the large employers. It's the organizations where they know they're going to be able to give back and at the end of it, not only have a good resume builder, but a good experience and feel like they've made a difference. Now, the one challenge with that is you're going to have to find that student that's interested in your cause, and we can do that through our site, and we'll talk more about that in a second. But that's the play for your nonprofits that you need to focus on. Finding a student that's passionate about the problem you're trying to solve in the community. And then, like I said, increase in starting salary, faster ramp up when you get ready, when they get ready to graduate. All right, so an intern or an internship program is not for everyone. All right, you have to invest the time. Doesn't mean you have to invest money per se, but an internship program is not free. It doesn't cost any. It does cost some time and some resources on your part. And by the way, I see people taking notes. We're going to send you this electronically, so don't worry. But these are the questions I want you to ask yourself before you jump into building an internship program or getting on our site in search of an intern. All right, and I won't read these questions, but effectively, you need to ask yourself, can I commit to this? Is my organization ready to take on an intern? Because it's not free, even though you don't have to pay them in many cases. All right? All right, processes recommended for you to build an internship program. First, establish what goals and parameters you want to set for it. And once again, this isn't a single internship experience. This is for a year. Think of it as an annual, reoccurring project, budget, resource, like you would anything else in your budget. Develop job descriptions and determine the incentives. What incentives can you provide to the intern? Sometimes it's compensation, financial. Sometimes it's a free lunch every week. Sometimes it's a mentor. Sometimes it's connections and a network. We could talk about some other cool incentives you can offer. Also, on Campus2Careers, we've got 55 of the most common job descriptions already written for you. So you just copy and paste it into our site. And that's on our resources page. Post jobs, either on our site or on the schools individually. Complete the orientation program and onboard them. And this is really important. You want to treat the student like a full-time employee, which very often includes a true onboarding process, right? Where you welcome them to the company, where you introduce them to everybody. You want to assign a single supervisor or manager. You want to give them a buddy, which is not you if you're the supervisor. Sometimes that's someone that is a recent graduate as well, a peer. And if you're a sole proprietor, so that means you don't have some of these tools, then maybe it's you and someone on your board. Maybe you're the buddy and the mentor, and someone on your board is your mentor, and you are the buddy, or you're the supervisor. Once again, create discrete projects that the intern can take on start to finish. And that one I can't hit home enough. That is the number one incentive for that student, is something tangible that they can have on their resume that they can say they did start to finish. Consider training and development opportunities. One of the incentives that you should consider is, instead of paying the intern, maybe you put money aside in a budget to send them to trainings. They get incredible reoccurring value out of that, and it's an incentive that they can't pay for on their own. Interestingly enough, also in this survey that we did, Gen Y students care more about training and developing their relevant skills than they do about compensation. So what I mean by that is, if you had $500, many interns would rather you send them to training with that money, which benefits you obviously as well, than pay them the $500 themselves. And then conduct performance reviews and give feedback. Students care more about feedback than you and I ever did. A, they need that to figure out how to improve. And B, once again, that shows how relevant the internship is to having a real full-time job. Any questions on this slide? This is we've got a lot coming your way here. Once again, we suggest you sit down, and we'll talk about this in the onboarding slide. We suggest you sit down with your intern, and even during the interview process, ask them what their motivators are most. If you get a senior, the odds are many of them had already had an internship. They've already gotten class credit. So as Rob said, that doesn't even apply. Because of the economy, sadly, there are students that have graduated that are looking for full-time, unpaid or paid internships just to get their foot in the door, or to learn how to network and build a network. All right, available incentives. So, for some of you, hourly pay may be something that's available. I will tell you, if you're looking for a web designer, a web developer, you're not going to get that without paying. That is just premium these days. Even students are getting paid to do work for clients. We are working on a program where, as part of class projects, students will be developing applications and writing websites for you for free for class credit. But we're not there yet. And when that happens, there will be 800 CS majors at UT that will be, again, looking to us to help you, looking to us to find you to build your websites and applications. And that will be a huge game changer that we hope to replicate, statewide. But in the meantime, if you're looking for anything technical, you're going to have to pay for it. And that's the hourly pay piece. The average hourly pay for a technical person is, even in school, is $25, just to provide some context. Now, if you were to go out and hire someone in the Austin market, you'd be looking at $125 for that same skill set. And so that's the value of bringing on an intern to do that work. Performance bonus. Almost every company that we have on our site has figured out some way to incent the student with some performance bonus. And that could be only a $500 stipend at the end of the semester. That could be congratulatory lunches or prizes or gift cards, something just to set a goal. Let's take social media, for example. Build our Facebook page and get us 500 followers, and we're going to take you out to lunch. We're going to do something fun. We're going to celebrate. We're going to have some kind of party, something to incent them in a financial or congratulatory way, because you guys were there at one point and you remember what it's like to be congratulated and to have a goal. And it relates directly to what they're going to do when they graduate. Commissions. We have a lot of employers that are using students today to do lead generation through affiliate marketing or cold calling. And if there's a direct financial compensation that you will get with that student intern, we suggest you incent them appropriately. Commissions is an appropriate way. Yeah?
Do you advertise all this on your job postings?
Yes and no. So repeat the question. Yes. So the question was, do we advertise that, or do we suggest you publish that on our posting? So the answer is no. There are 5 drop-downs for the compensation section. And we typically suggest, unless you have an hourly rate that you think is very competitive, the answer is you should leave it blank on our site in particular. If you leave it blank on our site, what it tells the student when they're viewing it on the matches page is contact the employer for information. In our opinion, suggesting that they contact you allows you to build a compensation plan that meets their incentives and motivators.
So you don't say unpaid?
We don't say unpaid. If you put $0, then it's going to say unpaid. It's going to say pay $0. We don't believe any internship is worth $0. And so we typically suggest you leave it blank, and that tells the student to contact you, and then you guys can negotiate something that works. I mean, like I said, it may be commission, it may be a performance bonus, it may be hourly pay. Any of these are a form of compensation. Maybe not a traditional form of compensation, but of financial value to the student. As I said alone, experience in an internship relevant to the student's career goals is worth 20% increase in starting salary. I promise you that is more than almost anybody will pay, even at the large employers, for that work, minus programming skills. And so that's why we suggest you don't highlight that unless you know it's going to be competitive. And right, that's how almost every job posting in the world is, right? It's COE, competitive based on experience. And so effectively, by not posting that, you're saying the same thing, COE. The pay will be competitive based on your experience. Class credit, again, you're going to have to work with the student to either complete a form or write the job description or build the task that will allow them to get class credit. References, connections, networking. Very often the fact that this student will be out there representing your brand in the community will lead them to a job. You can't quid pro quo, which means, you do this, we'll give you a job, or we will help you find a job. But 80% of jobs are filled through networking, right? I'm one of the founders of a job board, so for me to say that job boards aren't the best way to get a job, means that it's got to be true, right? 80% is through networking. Students' connections are largely on campus. So the value of drafting and using your network to get a job is huge. Mentoring, professional development, once again, like I said, training, sending them to training, unique experiences, and then, like I said, unique perks. Maybe that's a party. Maybe that's a trip, to go to a conference. Whatever it is, I promise you have something to offer them that you've never thought of, that they've never had access to, and you can package in a way that will be very enticing to them.
One thing to keep in mind, and this is probably difficult to work into a conversation with an intern or intern prospect about why they want to do this or why they want to do this with you, is the kind of development that will take place in an internship, which students are really in great need of. And a big part of that is the development of all of these soft skills that you have as adults that you probably don't know how you got. A lot of students don't have these skills, and they don't know it. They don't know what they don't know. I mean, just the sorts of skills like being able to read people, being able to say appropriate things at appropriate moments. And this is it may take a leap of faith to realize how little, in many cases, students have in the terms of developing these kinds of skills. I once had an intern in my Washington program who was interning with the Navy JAG Corps and had a difficult time with a supervisor. And one day, I don't know why, the supervisor asked the student, "What do you think of me?" Probably the supervisor was sensing there was some tension. And the student said, "You remind me of a blood-sucking vampire who's sucking the life out of me." Now, that was not the right thing to say. But that gives you a sense that students don't necessarily have those kinds of skills, and they don't know it. So this is just something to keep in mind, that you really are potentially going to do something very beneficial to the student. You may not be able to bring that into the conversation.
I'll give you a slightly more positive example. We have an intern that is actually rewriting our marketing pages. So in 3 weeks, when you go to our marketing pages, you will see something completely different. We have a performance bonus that we've put in place with him instead of paying hourly rate, which is more or less a project fee. And the other day, he made an introduction for us to another client he has. And he introduced me as his mentor. Now, he never officially asked me to be his mentor. We never, agreed to that. But that just goes to show you how he, what he thinks of the role of supervisor and intern, and the value that I put into the relationship. And our fall intern graduated. Went to go work for a company, and 3 weeks ago called me with a dilemma that when I was his age, I would have never been able to solve. And we worked through it, and to this day, he couldn't go to his parents, he couldn't go to his friends. I mean, there was no one else he could go to, and that made all the free work he did for us, priceless, worth it. And sometimes you don't even have to say, "I want to be your mentor." It just happens. And that's one of the values of the program. Okay. Sourcing and selection. We are not the only game in town, so I don't want to force you guys to use Campus2Careers. There are a lot of benefits to using our site, but Monster, Craigslist, the current applications or job boards out there are just not effective, unfortunately, which is why we exist. Schools have their own job boards. We typically get a higher placement rate and have more success than each individual school. Plus, the fact that we aggregate students from across all universities in this given market is kind of the number one incentive. But the biggest incentive is that we will match you with the student. You will actually be able to build what we call a careers page or a profile on our site so that you could stand out to the student, so that they can look at your profile and say, "Wow, this is a cool company, even though I've never heard of them. Wow, this is a great nonprofit with a great social cause, even though I've never heard of them." And you get to build a brand in our community to recruit students. Second is that you get to post the job description and identify certain skills that you're looking for, so that only qualified candidates will apply for your job, and that we will rank order all the candidates in our database based upon your preferences and skills. One of the problems, and you're going to laugh when I say this, with students is that they don't know what they want to do, and they will say they will do anything to get a job, right? They'll be sitting across from you from a career fair, an info session, or they'll run into you in the supermarket. "Oh, what do you do?" "Oh, I want to do that. That's exactly what I want to do." Right? And so the preference questions weed out the people because they ask questions that will move them towards working for a suit and tie financial services firm, or a jeans and flip-flop technology company, or a nonprofit that is really caring much more about community activities. All right, and so that's one of the values of our site, is that you're not going to have to read through 100 resumes. You're going to read through maybe 10 or 20, and those will be hand-picked or matched for you to save you time. The students, meanwhile, see you if you see them, and they see you as a top match and someone that's a company or organization that they should consider. And then we give you technology that will automatically allow you to contact your top matches, kind of streamlining the entire sourcing process, so you don't have to go through and contact every student like you would on some job boards, or wait for students to contact you, which is how all campus sites work. So what would happen is if you went to any other student job board in the state, you'd post your 8.5 by 11 job description and wait. It could take 2 days, it could take 3 weeks, it could take 6 months for someone to say, oh, that's a great job, I want to contact that company or that organization. Instead, you post the job, you go to the matches page, automatically contact the top candidates, and our best hire was in 6 hours. We had a startup in Austin hire a McCoy MBA graduate in 6 hours. It's possible with our technology. School's website, you register with the school. There are at least 12 different school job boards, individual school job boards in Austin or in Central Texas. You post the job description, and then you wait for candidates to send you their resume. Like I said, you either get hundreds or you get none, depending on how much luck you have. All right, so I wanted to show you a few quick screenshots just so you can kind of get your hands on the site in advance and head around what we're doing. This is Spiceworks. It's one of our clients. They actually are one of the fastest growing IT companies in Austin. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. But what they have is a video up. They actually have their logo. They've got a description, links to various pages. They actually have a TV channel with streaming video about what it's like to work there and some of their clients. It's a cool place to work. It's a place that, 51 to 250 employees, so it's a mid-sized company in Austin. And then, they'll actually be able to answer 5 preference questions about the culture of the company. They'll be able to provide additional information. We actually ask you 4 questions that we know every student's going to want you to answer. What it's like to work at your company, what are your company perks, stuff like that. And then you can attach everything, anything you want. You can attach press release. You can attach onboarding information. You can attach benefits information. You can attach pictures of your community activities. And that builds your company profile. It allows you to stand out beyond, your 8.5 by 11 job description with the 2-paragraph or 1-paragraph description of who you are. Then on the job post, just like any job post, you enter in basic information. What's the pay, if any? Who's hiring? What's the job title? And then we've got a few really cool features that save you the time and it does all the matching. And that is, we put in filters. So if you only want to see a student from UT, you won't see students from anywhere else. If you want to see an engineering major, you won't see anybody else. They won't see you. If you want a student who is only looking for a job in a certain zip code or from a certain area, like all schools in Austin area, then you put these filters in. They don't see you unless they meet the filters. You don't see them, so you will get no unqualified candidates. And when you go and you contact the top matches, all of them are qualified. All of them are meet your filters. Most small businesses and nonprofits don't put filters in, except if, let's say, they're looking for a CS major, someone to do programming, they'll put CS engineering, et cetera. If you're looking for a marketing intern, you may want to put advertising, marketing, general business, stuff like that, just to narrow the field down so you're not wasting your time. I always suggest for nonprofits and small businesses that you give liberal arts majors a shot. All right? That was most of us. I'll share with you a staggering statistic. 50% of students graduate with a liberal arts degree. 6% of companies go to campus to recruit a liberal arts major. Huge mismatch, right? That's why last year, only 22% of students that graduated from college from four-year institutions across the country had a job by June. So we talk about unemployment, right? 78% of students graduate unemployed. And it's because only 6% of companies want a liberal arts major, and that's what we're producing in institutions today. I can get to a very long conversation about that. We can do that over a drink at another time. But ultimately, I suggest that unless you're looking for someone very specific, check the liberal arts box, or don't check anyone at all, because that's where you as a nonprofit or as a small business that can't pay are going to be able to find someone 95% of the time, right? Because that's just huge numbers of people that need this on their resume in order to get a job. It's that simple. The difference between the 22% that got a job and the 78% that didn't, I bet is 90% the internship experiences that they had. And that's unfortunate, but that's the problem we're facing today. So that's how you can put in filters to find the candidates specifically that you're looking for in the skill sets. Then in the skills table, we ask you to choose 10 of 25 skills so that if someone says they're all analytical and no technical, and you need someone technical, you're not going to even find that candidate. Right? This is like the UT paper called us the love child of monster and eHarmony. Right? Because we will match you with maybe not the girl you're going to marry or the guy you're going to marry, but at least worth the first date, right? Which is what we call the interview in the job space. And then 5 more preference questions that are about the work environment. So the first 5 questions on the company profile were about your culture. The next 5 are about the job environment. All right, this is what the page ultimately looks like when you get to the matching. We will rank order all the students in our database based upon your criteria. The automatic match message, which is at the bottom of the job post, will automatically send a message to the top 10 to 50 candidates. You'll get a little "you've been contacted" or "they contacted you" icon, and that means that you're in discussion with them. And you will literally scroll through and have as many. We will only display the top 500 candidates for you. Sorry, 500 is probably enough. Probably only 10. But that's how our site will work. We will rank order all the top candidates based upon skills and fit. Green is good, yellow is medium, and red is don't even worry about them, typically. And the students get the exact same thing with your jobs rank ordered for them. Any questions on this?
Is there a way to connect to maybe the business or organization's Facebook page through that?
Repeat the question one more time, sorry.
Is there a way for students to connect through the businesses and the organizations on the Campus2Careers site through the Facebook? Is there a
Yes. So the question is there a way to put up your Facebook and other social media information on our site? Is that it? Okay, let me show you a quick thing on your careers page. So this is your careers page. You could put any links you want here. You could put Facebook, Twitter, your website. In fact, you can even put, let's say you have a job post already on your site, or where they have to apply. You could put that in there, or you can put that in the job description. There are places where you can direct them to your social media. This is what happens when you find an intern or a candidate that you want to dive deeper into. This is one of our interns from last year. And there's a video, a picture of them. Why they're so excited to use our site, students, is 2 things, right? 3 things. One is it takes the guesswork out for them. 2 is that it's jobs they've never had access to before. 3rd is how frustrating is it for a student who lives in a digital age to still be submitting paper-based resumes. They spend, half of their free time on Facebook. and then they're expected to try and figure out how to put, you know, all their information into an 8.5 by resume. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense in today's day and age, right? So the student, for the first time, gets to build their own profile, their own virtual resume, and gets to stand out, put up a video of themselves, attach, you know, class projects, and also answers questions and identifies the skills that they possess to be matched with your requirements.
We're going to run through the remaining slides fairly quickly and leave a little time for questions. Onboarding checklist. Again, Nathan's going to send this to you. Let me just highlight one of these, which is to set expectations and discuss interest, and that's really getting to the core of setting this up so that this is a win-win for you and for the intern. Daily operations checklist. Again, sets the expectations. Help the students understand the bigger picture, put their projects in context. Let's go ahead and just move through these fairly quickly. End of program checklist. Again, I think there's a lot of good information on these slides. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on them. But you really do want, probably Nathan may speak to this, give them an opportunity to present their findings. That's a real critical opportunity for the students. There is a lot of added value for students in being able to do that. And if you can work that into their experience, all the better.
So what Rob just ran through very quickly, which is pretty well documented on these slides, is effectively, you know, how you start the internship program, what you do during it, and how you wrap it up with an exit interview. At the bottom, there's a reference to a document or documents. One of the things we really stress is that you build a formal program. You provide structure to it. If you just say, hey, come and go as you please, it's not going to be a good program or experience for either of you. So one thing that we're going to share with you guys is templates that will provide immediate structure so that the intern will take it seriously, because that's what part of the problem has always been. You guys need to invest a lot of time for what ends up being a short output. Now we're saying that doesn't apply anymore. You should expect to hire someone every single semester. In fact, you should expect to hire an intern that hires their replacement every single semester. The second problem we solve by you guys putting some real structure around the role. All right, and that means they take it seriously. You start with an onboarding process. You have an MOU, memorandum of understanding. This is what we're going to commit to doing for you. This is what you're going to commit to doing for us. Some clients of ours have actual NDAs in place with their interns because some of the stuff they're doing is so secretive and compelling. So we will get you a list of these templates, a link to these templates, to these forms. One of the last slides here, I just wanted to cover it real quickly, just kind of wrap up. These are a few factors to make sure that your program is successful. The first is eliminate the just an intern mentality. You have to treat them like an employee. They're going to want to be treated like an employee. Find the proper incentives. Welcome them to the organization, whether that's a lunch, whether that's an all-hands meeting, whether that's just taking them out because it's a small team. Define clear roles, responsibilities, goals, and tasks. They won't understand what you're asking them to do if you don't understand it. Let them know that there is commitment and support from management. Explain how that internship relates to business goals. This is probably one of the most important things. Students live in without context for how what they're doing is helping maybe business goals, the bottom line, the community, social good. Allow time for transition and documentation. What I mean by that is this first intern that you're going to bring on, build time in for them to develop their own job descriptions, their own roles, document everything they're doing, and find a replacement. If this first intern does only 30% of what the next intern does, you're in good shape, right? Because that means that they have time to document everything they're doing, and for you to work with them to massage it so the next intern is even more successful. And this is what Rob said. My best internship experience in college was one where I got to present at the end of it to the CEO of Canon Worldwide. I will never, to date, have that opportunity. It's the one thing I talked about for my first 5 years out of college. And so, it doesn't have to be that, important of a person. You are important enough. Let them come to you and present their findings. Great experience for them, gives you and your organization a chance to learn what they've been doing that whole semester and see the value. And lastly, stay connected after the internship. This is so important. Like I said, we just automatically become a mentor because you've got a relationship and there's trust built. All right. The number one question we get is, can you help us build an internship program? We are a technology. I'm a computer geek. You do not want me sitting down and building your internship program. All right. Adam here, who we work with, who is a former intern himself, is someone that we suggest you contact if you want to build a full-fledged internship program. He is right now doing that for Brown Distributing and a bunch of other kind of well-known local companies. And he's the person we're going to send you to. So if you say, I have a question, I'm going to say, I've got the person that has the answer because we are focused on the technology. All right? And this is what is required to build an effective internship program. The number one thing that he can help you with is providing lesson plans, for example, of what the intern needs to do every day if he or she is going to run your social media, for example. All right, these are a few employer success stories. I'm not going to run through all of them, but I just wanted to give you a few examples. Interior Devotion is my favorite example. This is a sole proprietor who never thought she would be an employer, brought out an intern in a probationary capacity, and hired her first person ever, which was her first intern. We've got a bunch of nonprofits up there. We actually have a band. It's amazing the types of organizations that need interns. This is our contact information. Obviously, you know how to get a hold of us. We're going to send you our information. We're going to send you a link to our resources page, which is probably the number one site you'll want to go to for documentation, like the job descriptions and everything else. And lastly, these are the people that helped us get this event off today. Core Media, who we haven't talked about, is the group that's live streaming this, and internshipbuilder.com is Adam's organization. I want to thank the Better Business Bureau for hosting us, Rob for coming out. And I want to share kind of an advanced information about something we're going to attempt to launch here. Rob talked earlier about what San Jose was trying to do, which was connect the small businesses and the startups with tomorrow's future talent. If all goes as planned, in March, we're going to roll out something called Intern in Austin. It will be the nation's first citywide internship program for small businesses and nonprofits exclusively. It's going to be a program that we are co-hosting with TANO, the Better Business Bureau, in addition to the mayor's office and all schools. It's going to be a single landing page, or a few different pages, where all the information that you ever wanted to know about how to build an internship program will be hosted. Videos that Adam has worked on will be provided, access to our site as well as each school's site, so that you can go to one place and find all the information you need, instead of going to each individual school's sites to find out their requirements, to our site, etc. And the mayor has made it clear that he thinks one of the largest untapped resources for a city our size, right, 120,000 students in Central Texas, and one of the fastest, most vibrant small business community, is connecting these two resources. And so that's something that we're going to work with the mayors and the chambers and other organizations to create, so that you have all the information we're presenting plus a lot more at your disposal starting in March. And the reason why we're starting it in March, April timeframe, is because career fairs will have ended. 90% of students looking for an internship will have not found one through the traditional on-campus activities. They will be desperate. They will be frightened by what their career prospects are. And you will be able to come in as the knight in shining armor and give these students a great opportunity. And that's the purpose of that program.
Are you going to
Yes, well, we will send you this link as well as other links to documentation. And when the Internship in Austin program launches, we will send everyone links to that as well. It's going to be an extension of our site just for Austin. Right now we're in 3 cities, Austin, San Antonio, and Houston. And the material that we're going to be putting up on that site with other organizations will be specific to the Austin community.
I think we're about 5 minutes over time, so we'll stick around and answer questions that you have. If anybody needs to leave, please feel free to do so. Thank you very much for coming out this afternoon.